Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys about something that maybe a lot of you haven't heard about. A lot of you who follow my channel normally have heard about it. A lot of people who maybe heard things about me have heard, oh, Jason just hates on bodybuilding because he's jealous, because he can't get abs, or whatever their explanation is, guys. But even if you're here because you believe this sort of nonsense, like you actually think that that's my reasons, I think you're going to find if you listen to this video that I'm going to present a very rational, well thought out argument as to why I do give bodybuilding a very hard time, less so than I do powerlifting. But I actually am pretty hard on unhealthy practices in powerlifting too. So let me go ahead and put on my +5 hat of speechcraft, lovingly called my +5 hat of autism by many of you, and let's talk about this. And what I would say to anyone who's come here just because they've heard whatever about me, or they have a certain view of bodybuilding, or think that I'm just being a jealous hater, I want you to listen to the points that I make here, and then you'll understand it better. Now, when I'm talking about bodybuilding versus powerlifting, I'm not talking about probably most of you out there listening. In other words, a guy who goes to the gym and one of his goals is to get bigger biceps and bigger pecs, that doesn't make you a bodybuilder. Any more than going to the gym and trying to get stronger on your squat makes you a powerlifter. Now, is part of bodybuilding getting bigger biceps and pectorals? Sure, that's part of what bodybuilders do, but that's not the whole process of bodybuilding. Any more than working on your squat is powerlifting. It's something that powerlifters do, just like working on your biceps is something that bodybuilders do, but most people who do those things don't compete in either one. These are competitive endeavors. And people will say, well, building your body is bodybuilding. No, that's like saying lifting for power is powerlifting. That's not the same thing, not at all. These are specific competitive endeavors. They're actually single words. Bodybuilding is one word, powerlifting is one word. They're specific competitive endeavors. So we need to define those terms. So I'm actually not being critical of every person who goes to the gym and does curls for bigger biceps. Hell, I do curls for bigger biceps. Not that I have great biceps, but I actually train my biceps with 10 rep sets a couple times a week on camera, right? It made me a bodybuilder. So let's come over and talk about the point, though. When I talk about the health aspects of it, I'm not saying that at the competitive level, the serious competitive level, that anything can't be unhealthy, because literally everything can be unhealthy at a certain threshold. Once you're trying to compete and be at a serious level, there is a threshold with all physical competitive endeavors to where your health can become at risk or become compromised. There's a threshold that exists in everything from bodybuilding to powerlifting to NASCAR to dart throwing. There's probably a threshold where competitive dart throwing may even compromise your health at a certain point, right? It's hypothetically possible because you're putting winning is the ultimate goal above everything else, and you might be willing to make sacrifices. There might be a new drug that comes out for dart throwing that might reduce your lifespan by 5 years, right? That makes you a little better throwing a dart, in which case there's a health compromise. But we need to be realistic about it. With powerlifting, can you go to a local regional meet and win? I'm not talking about your state championship. I'm not talking about nationals. I'm not talking about worlds. I'm talking about, can you go to a regional meet in powerlifting without any serious risk of getting hurt? Meaning, we can get hurt driving there. You can get hurt doing a warm-up at the gym. You can get hurt doing anything. I'm talking about a serious risk. And can you do so without compromising your health? Of course you can. It is possible to show up at a regional powerlifting meet and win your class and get invited to the state championship and maybe even get invited to a national championship off that first meet with no health risk, with no compromises in your health. Why? Because all you got to do is get decently strong, right? All you have to do most of the time is get reasonably, decently strong, work on the squat, bench, and deadlift with good form and good technique and show up, right? And make your weight class. Usually, as long as you're not too fat or too skinny, you'll probably make your weight class, your first time in. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to be competitive at the national or world level, but you can show up and win regionals with no risk, like no serious risk of injury, no health compromises, nothing that would make your blood work look bad. Can you do that in bodybuilding? No. Why? The rules of bodybuilding are written in such a way that they actually reward physical attributes that require a health compromise. And it's not me saying that, that is a research saying that. There are people who are themselves bodybuilders with PhDs who did their doctoral work in this stuff. Dr. Eric Helms, perfect example, natural pro bodybuilder. Did his doctoral work studying natural pre-contest bodybuilders. What did his research show? What did the blood work on these people show? And this is someone who loves bodybuilding. This is someone who is passionate about bodybuilding and loves bodybuilding. If anything, he's biased in favor of bodybuilding. What did his research show? Their blood work looked horrific across the board. You even talk to natural bodybuilders. How many of them do you talk to who suffer everything from eating disorders to hormone problems as a result of doing one show? How many serious natural bodybuilders do you guys know? Go talk to some of them and be honest about it. How many of them who are not putting any drugs in their body suffer erectile dysfunction, loss of sex drive, everything else? Pretty common, isn't it? Pretty common. Deal with psychological issues as a result of it. Why? Because they require you to get to body fat levels that are unhealthy. It actually carries a health risk. To even compete and win a regional show is a natural, actually risk your health at the lowest levels of competition. Now, people could argue that's not an enormous risk of health. Not an enormous risk of health, no, but it is there, and it's substantial, and it has a measurable effect on the body. It's not the most unhealthy thing you could do in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but it's already unhealthy and dangerous at the regional level. So you guys see where I'm going with this? So to compare the two, it's a bit of a problem. Now, does powerlifting have health problems? Absolutely. Are there people whose lifestyles revolving around powerlifting are very unhealthy? Absolutely. Do I call them out for it? Yes. If a powerlifter in the super heavyweights is so fat that he has cellulose on his face, am I going to call him out on it? Yeah. Do you see me uplifting some of the fatter powerlifters who maybe even are on YouTube? I'm not going to name names. Do you see me praising their lifestyle or even praising their strength oftentimes? No, of course they're strong. I'm not going to sing praises because they're promoting an unhealthy lifestyle. All right, I'm not going to promote that. If a guy's walking around at 35% body fat with a big old gut, I don't care if he squats 800 pounds. I'm not going to promote it because that's not healthy. But the majority of powerlifters aren't doing that, right? Most powerlifters actually are at healthy body fats. In fact, what body fat percentage are the majority of powerlifters at who are very successful? When you step outside of the really, really heavy weight classes and you go to where 95% of people compete at, even at the world level, where are they at? 10 to 15% body fat for men? Now, in what world is that outside of the healthy range? That's actually peak health. 10 to 15% is considered to be the Goldilocks zone of health. Incidentally, and this is not a coincidence, it also tends to produce the best strength athletes in weight classes. Why? Because best balance of hormone levels, strength to weight ratios combined with still keeping good hormones and good health. All right, that's the reason. The fact that it's very healthy, because if you go too lean, your health gets compromised, which affects strength, affects recovery, other stuff, right? It could affect your training. It could affect your strength to get too lean, but being leaner is better for your weight class. You're going to be stronger than other people at the same weight if you have less fat and more muscle than they do. Right? It's an advantage. So being at a healthy body fat is actually advantageous to powerlifting. For bodybuilding, you're required to drop so low that it's dangerous to your health. Right? That's a problem. There's a big difference. Then you come over to the drug abuse end. When you start dealing with the drug abuse, does it need to be called out? Sure. Abusing copious amounts of drugs, and I'm not even anti-steroid, by the way. Abusing copious amounts of drugs should never be encouraged. Of course, it's unhealthy. Difference is how many serious bodybuilders are dropping dead versus powerlifters. I'm not saying some big name powerlifters haven't died young from drug abuse. They have. Not as common though, is it? You ever wonder why that is? In spite of the fact that people say, well, a lot of the powerlifters are fat, why are they still not dropping dead? Because they're still not abusing themselves as much as bodybuilders. And that's what people need to remember. Yes, there are guys abusing. It's not as much. People say, what do you mean? Aren't a lot of them using steroids? Of course they are. But do you think bodybuilders, modern bodybuilding, for the enhanced bodybuilding, has got to a point to where it's just steroids? A lot of your natural pros abuse steroids. A lot of guys in your classic physique type bodybuilding abuse insane amounts of androgens. They're as big as you can get off of just that. You guys need to understand, bodybuilders use other stuff. If bodybuilders only used anabolic steroids and that's all they use to get bigger, a lot of your pros would have 30, 40, 50 pounds less muscle than they have right now. Because there's a finite amount of muscle that even these substances put on your body. They put other stuff in there, some stuff that is a hell of a lot more dangerous if used irresponsibly, particularly things like insulin, right? Insulin abuse is almost mandatory in pro bodybuilding. Well, I mean, all these people out here talk about, oh, having really high insulin levels in your body is bad for you, spiking your insulin. Well, some of these guys have spiked insulin all day long, year round. They're shooting 4, 5, 6 times a day, and they're using large amounts of it. You don't think that that has other serious negative effects than all IGF-1, the growth hormone, all these other drugs, experimental drugs? They're using all that in addition to just the anabolics. And what about all the stuff they use to help them lose body fat? Right? How about all the side enhancement? Every single pro bodybuilder these days injects stuff directly into their biceps and triceps. You don't think that carries health risks? Put all that oil in their body? Then all the diuretics they use. How many of them have had kidney failure because of diuretic abuse? A lot of them. Diuretics, thyroid hormones, stimulants, all the stuff they use. It's not just steroids, guys. So you're taking something that as an endeavor is already unhealthy if it's natural. It carries measurable, quantifiable health risk immediately. Automatically, by default, you cannot be competitive without compromising your health at even the regional level. You can at least get away with that in powerlifting. In fact, I know guys in powerlifting who've never been hurt, have had great blood work, have never done a drug in their life, who've made it to worlds. I do know some personally. Who also don't diet down to body fats that hurt your health. You can't do that in bodybuilding. I'm not saying everybody can do that in powerlifting because only the most gifted can pull that off. People who really work hard and are really gifted can pull that off, right? They can be done. You can't do that in bodybuilding. But then you take the level of drug abuse. It's not just steroids. It's entire cocktails of drugs. So when people say you're just hating on bodybuilding without ever hating on powerlifting, of course I hate on powerlifting. Look, man, if you're using 3 grams of gear as a powerlifter trying to win a trophy, yeah, I'm going to call you out. That is stupid. That is stupid. If you're bloating your body up to 30 or 35% body fat while competing in powerlifting as a super heavyweight, that is stupid. For obvious reasons, it's unhealthy. Let's come back over to the point. If you're dieting down to 6% body fat for a bodybuilding show, that is stupid and it's unhealthy. The problem is you can do powerlifting without doing the latter. You can't do bodybuilding without doing that. So when I'm giving bodybuilding a hard time, it's not unreasonable. It's not unwarranted. I'm not being biased. I'm being objective about it because you can't escape the dangerous side of bodybuilding. At least with powerlifting, you can be competitive without self-harm. It can be done because it's not actually risky to hit a 1-rep max. It really isn't. Researchers have determined that. The evidence is actually there. It's done in studies all the time. Most exercise science researchers don't think with good form that it's particularly dangerous to hit a max. It really isn't. And we train around injuries in powerlifting. Like a lot of our training is geared towards preventing those injuries from happening to begin with. I'm not saying it doesn't carry risk. You just need to be aware of those risks and you need to prepare for them and you need to minimize those risks. but they're still there. They're there. But you can't avoid the risk in bodybuilding. Just the nature of the beast. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.